Packers on the Rocks fans, welcome back. The wait is over. The decision has been made. Dean Lowry is officially no longer a Green Bay Packer, and the Minnesota Vikings have picked up yet another one of our leftovers. Once again, all joking aside, we all know the big LeBron James type decision that was made this past week that we will most certainly be talking about. So let's go ahead and get this party on the road. Cheers, Dave.
Yeah, cheers, bud. I was drinking before that, but yes.
What do we have? 'Cause we're gonna say this is Bailey's in the coffee, Morning Joe.
I'm a little bit later in the time zone than you, so I have a jalapeno margarita right now.
1 hour makes all the difference. It's 11 a.m.
It
for
does.
me, where it may be a bit aggressive if I'm pouring myself a margarita. But once it flips the page to noon, then it's no holds bar.
Yeah, it felt like a spring March Madness type drink, so that's what we're rocking with here. The bourbon was the winter cold months, of Lambeau Field. Now, you gotta switch it up to beers and margaritas and that type of stuff.
Maybe seltzers too. Daylight savings, I heard, is no longer a thing. We just had our last one forever, which I feel like wasn't even really talked about in the news. A friend passed that information along to me, but we won't have to be turning our clocks forward or ahead. So you can be drinking margaritas now up until who knows when at this point, up until November.
There you go. All right.
Let's get this party on the road. Dave, unless you did your own darkness retreat of sorts this past week and went into a cave with nothing else besides yourself and your thoughts. I'm sure that you heard about or even saw the Pat McAfee show. We thought it was going to be Aaron Rodgers Tuesday. In true Aaron Rodgers fashion, he pushed it out a day. He came on and said that, hey, there's no decision to be made. And I'm like, not again. He's just here to string us along. Any Husenhauser. Dave, I want to get your first thoughts on after hearing Aaron Rodgers and everything he had to say about what lies ahead and heading potentially to the New York Jets.
I was just thinking I might need a darkness retreat to record an episode with how many times my daughter's broken up one of our podcasts.
We're not writing it off that she could easily interrupt this take as well.
So back on track here. So I think instead of this whole process didn't start during the darkness retreat. I think the Packers and the Rodgers have been kind of on edge for the last, I think it's safe to say, probably 3 years now, right? I think it's safe to say that you liked the Ted Thompson regime of him, Elliott Wolf, and some of the other guys like Henderson that left and took other jobs more so than you liked the front office of this staff. So I think that kind of, and the whole talk about communication and hey, our lines are blurred. Clearly Ted Thompson would tell him, hey, we're not going after free agents. We're just going to give you a bunch of 7th round draft picks and have at it. And then Gutekunst started making deals, but clearly Rodgers wasn't happy with the guys that he was bringing in. And then the tough decisions of, hey, Nelson doesn't have the speed anymore. We have to let Nelson go. Cobb's kind of banged up. We're going to let Cobb go. And just not re-signing Cook. And some of these decisions that Gutekunst made, because he has every right to, because he's the GM, rubbed Rodgers the wrong way. So what did Rodgers prefer? Would he prefer a GM that went after guys to actually roster build, but it wasn't Rodgers' guys, or a GM that literally didn't go after anyone, but he's re-signed all of Rodgers' buddies over and over and over again?
He brought up once again, just like how he put the Packers on blast when he came back in 21 and just ripped the front office to shreds. They're like, yeah, whatever you want to say about us, go right ahead. Yeah. Packers hate bad PR, but Aaron will let you vent about whatever you're thinking. He did bring up once again that how things ended with Jordy Nelson, how things ended with Charles Rodgers, Julius Peppers, just like in the 21 talk, and we could potentially go down this rabbit hole too. He's like, I'm undisputedly the longest tenured Packer, and it's up for debate if I'm the greatest Packer of all time. My opinion, I think he is the greatest Packer of all time. And we've talked about on this show a lot. There's a lot of parallels between him and Favre. Favre, Ron Wolf, That's the person who traded, that first round pick to bring him to Green Bay. Him and Ted Thompson didn't see eye to eye, and we know everything that unfolded in that summer of '08, especially between him and McCarthy as well. And history is repeating itself all over again with Rodgers. One thing I see as being potentially different is that Favre wasn't afraid to move on from his guys. It's not like that he was jonesing to have Antonio Freeman on his last leg continue on until 2007. Like, Favre wasn't afraid to throw to new wide receivers, albeit throwing to Greg Jennings early on in his rookie season, throwing to James Jones. But here's Aaron Rodgers, who's like, I'm playing for a Super Bowl or I'm playing for an MVP. But yet he's trying to hold on to these old players in his locker room.
So the only thing I can actually probably wrap my head around with that point is Favre was like, I don't care how tight the window is and what the number is on their back. I'm going to let it rip. And Rodgers is very much like, I have to know everything to like the nth degree, like I'm building an atomic bomb here to make this pass. Like, it's just, it's two different play styles. Like, I'm pretty sure if Evan was hurt and the Packers said, Dave, do you think you could come out there in the second half? Like, Favre would be throwing me 100-mile-an-hour heaters. Like, Rodgers is very much, I have to know you on I have to have this mental connection with you to be able to, like, trust you with this football because my numbers are everything.
Wholeheartedly agree. We've heard Rodgers talk about, too, like, percentages of it, like 50-50 balls, 60-40, 70-30. He's like, James Jones, one of the best 50-50 balls. He's like, I would even say it's a 60-40, 70-30 that he's coming down with it. Like, he's calculating in his brain like he's doing trigonometry, the percentages on plays and if people aren't in the right spot. Sammy Watkins. Other thing I thought was really interesting about the Pat McAfee show and things that Aaron Rodgers mentioned that other shows haven't quite delved into is his percentages heading into the darkness retreat and then coming out.
Yeah.
Like, Dave, you mentioned a month ago that you thought 65% he's getting traded. Like, let me know if I'm off on some of these percentages.
Yeah, you're fine.
65% he's getting traded. 35% he's coming back to the Packers. Then 5% he's retiring. Those are the percentages.
That's 105. That's 105% right there, but it seems to add up.
even better. We know my math. Aaron Rodgers is the best at trig. I'm gonna be the polar opposite. Anyways, like, those are your percentages. Which, if you ask a lot of Packer fans and do a survey out there, I'd like to think it'd be pretty on point a month ago with those numbers. Aaron Rodgers, on the other hand, and maybe he's playing into it, and we know things that he likes to be the villain. He said 90% heading into darkness retreat. He's retiring, even though like a week prior he's at a golf tournament and he's loving the Las Vegas Raiders talk. And then 10% he's coming back. And then somehow he catches wind out of the darkness retreat. The Packers have decided to change their direction. They're moving on to Jordan Love. Are you buying into that stock, Dave? That those were his true percentages, or like, what do you think happened between going in the darkness retreat and then coming out where somehow he's hearing that the Packers didn't communicate to him that, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, we're ready to move on to the next QB?
I think he's really good at spinning stuff to make him kind of shine a little bit brighter here and be like, oh, man, now the Packers – it's all subtlety with Rodgers. Like little digs here and there. So now that's his way of saying, well, the Packers didn't want me. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of figure out, like, I'll retire a Packer. Well, now they don't think I'm good enough, so I'm going to come back and show them. It's a lot like Brett Favre parallels, right? Brett Favre announced his retirement 3 different times. Guess what? The last time that he retired and came back, he found out the Packers weren't pursuing him to come back. That's why he came back. So it has a lot of feel to it. The parallels between those two, I mean, they run deep in terms of 3 years sitting. Like, Rodgers sat 3 years, Love sat 3 years. Rodgers coming out party NFC East against Dallas in December. Love's was Eagles NFC East in December. Like, Rodgers' last pass, interception. Favre's last pass, interception. Like, it's just both going to the Jets. Like, and now with 12 being retired for the Jets, Rodgers' number was 4 at Butte. Does he go 4 for the Jets? Like, it's just crazy.
Does he also suffer a shoulder injury halfway through the season and send unsolicited pics to some sideline reporter as well?
Oh, jeez. But
Even Lil Wayne put Aaron Rodgers on blast. We know the tweet that he sent out when they were in that losing streak that 12 no longer has it, and he thought it was a bit premature. But he even came out and said it. He's like, Aaron Rodgers said he wasn't Brett. He's different than Brett, and he's like, Aaron, you turned into Brett.
Yeah,
through and through.
I kind of want to go a little bit like let's shift from Rodgers here for a minute and talk like decision making as the Packers organization, and I think that's a good way to lead into like trade cap and stuff like that. But before we get there, there was like comments by Goot leading up to it and comments by Mark Murphy leading up to it, where like probably halfway through the year, Gutekunst was like, "Well, we signed him to this big deal. He's our guy." Like it wasn't a 1-year commitment, and then you heard like a little switch, whereas like around the combine, it was. Yeah, I don't know. We're kind of listening to people. It was more like this. It's on the table. Midway through the year, he's like Rodgers is our guy, and then around combine, it turned into we're kind of shopping him around. Like we're listening. And then Mark Murphy said, which I think everyone got the like raise the dog ears thing of, he's always going to be a Packer grade. He could come back when his number retires and stuff like that. And everyone's like, oh crap, like what is going on now?
So many things that we had to read between the lines of. Yeah, during the season, Gutekunst firm that 12 is our guy. His first press conference right after the season, he's like, we have 2 great quarterbacks. I'm like, read between the lines there. But he still said, Aaron is our guy. And then the combine, different story where that was the very first time he was non-committal to Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Here was a really interesting thing that I heard a few days ago. That Mark Murphy spoke to that local news station about how, hey, him and Brett both had great careers. We're going to retire him as a Packer, retire their number. The timing of it all, Mark Murphy had that interview on a Friday, the same exact day that Aaron Rodgers informed the Packers that his intentions are to play for the Jets. So I thought that was peculiar as far as that. Mark Murphy could have broke the news there, but decided not to for Aaron Rodgers' best interest. But the timing of it all, they were both on Fridays, and Aaron told him, hey, I'm not the one that's holding this whole entire ship up until Wednesday. The Packers knew on Friday that I'm ready to move on to another team.
Okay, all right. So what do you think? What's reasonable? There's a lot of people that are going unreasonable for what we get. I'm in the mindset of it's probably – so here's the big thing too. Are the Packers waiting until June 1st to trade him, which means we don't get any capital this year because they're trying to spread out that cap hit? I think it happens before the draft. So I'm thinking 2nd-round pick this year with a conditional 3rd or 4th if he plays next year.
Are we going to continue down the Brett Favre path? We're going to get compensated for the same pick as Favre. He's wearing the same number.
Yeah, there you go.
All of those things are going to be the same. Jericho Cotchery, he's going to throw to him in New York, and he's coming out of retirement. Realistically speaking, though, this is also, we're speculating just like everybody else is out there.
Right.
And it seems like the narrative changes all the time. Like, I heard a couple months back that the Packers would be willing to just try to get rid of Aaron Rodgers. They don't really care about trade compensation. The contract's the biggest piece of the puzzle that they want to part ways with. Like, I thought they were okay with, hey, we'll take whatever we can get and move on. And then within like the past week, now I'm hearing they want a Matthew Stafford type deal when he was shipped off. Yeah, and wanting 2 firsts and all these other sort of things that
could be also Rodgers playing a part in it, saying Rodgers wants to actually be worth like. Can you imagine if Rodgers is traded for like a 4th round or like a 4th round pick, and Rodgers is just fuming like that's what you guys think of me? It could also be on Rodgers' part of like I want to be worth something, which
it definitely is. We know how much his ego plays into all these things.
I'm shocked no one's asked that to him. Just point blank, what do you think you're worth in a trade? Because that would be a really interesting thing to hear him say.
So what that tells me right here, thinking through all of that, Dave, is that before last week, I think the Packers were somewhat comfortable with like what you just said, a 2nd and a conditional pick, and just try to get rid of that burden of a contract.
Yeah.
And then conversations with Aaron. Aaron doesn't want to go out with, hey, I'm one of the best quarterbacks of all time, debatably the best Packer of all time. I don't want you to trade me for just circus peanuts. Like, I want to be traded for my past performance and what I mean to this organization. So that is definitely something that I think plays a huge part of that. And here's the other interesting thing from the Pat McAfee show. And you can sort of play this from both sides. Aaron for the Packers, then Aaron for the Jets. Aaron said that the Packers front office is digging their heels in. He's like, I told him on Friday, and now the Packers are digging their heels in, not wanting to budge on trade comp. There's so many different moving parts and ways that you can view it. I'll go back to your original question, Dave. What do I think is fair compensation at this point?
Yeah.
And June 1st, I don't understand how the whole entire contract works with how much we're saving or losing. Give me a conditional second and Denzel Mims, and let's call it a day. We need a wide receiver. Right now, our wide receiver room looks like two second-year players.
Because it's 3, Torrey. But
I know that's all right. Your guy. I forget our 7th round pick. I'm sorry.
Well, here's the thing too that I'm actually, not to get a little off topic here, but like I'm kind of excited for next year because Love's been thrown to these guys in camp. You know, the guys that Rodgers didn't trust, like Watson and Dobbs and Torrey, they're getting all their passes from Love. So there might be a little bit of a slightly better connection between those guys and Love than there ever was between Rodgers and those guys.
There should be too. And going back to the parallels of Rodgers working with Jennings and James Jones and Jordy and Donald Driver all those years in training camp without Brett Favre because he was taking his hiatus in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Yeah, now Love's has had, I would like to think, more reps with Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs and your guy Torrey through training camp and preseason OTAs as well than what Rodgers had, albeit Christian Watson with his injuries all throughout training camp.
Dude, I don't know what you have against Torrey. He's a good route runner. Like, whatever. That's a topic for a different day. But I think Love is going to flash. Kind of getting into the love topic here. I think he'll flash and he'll have some plays where you'll be left like doing the old holding your head or scratching your head and being like, what was that? He's mobile enough to work kind of within the pocket to kind of use his legs, but then also get outside it. I think a lot of people were worried until they kind of saw the preseason of this year and then the Eagles game because he made some pretty good throws in the 49ers preseason game. And then the Eagles game is really kind of when he spun it.
The Saints, too. I know I brought it up before, but my favorite throw for Jordan Love to date is against the Saints in preseason where he hits Juwan Winfrey on this corner route, drops it right in the bucket between the safety and the cornerback. I'm like, that right there, I'm sold. I know Jordan Love can make these NFL-type throws.
Kind of makes – I mean, he clearly wasn't ready, but, I mean, it's unheard of to trade a back-to-back MVP, but it kind of makes you wonder what kind of hole we would have gotten if we got out of this a year sooner. It wouldn't have been as much dead cap hit that we're taking on this year, but Love probably wasn't ready. Love would have been an absolute disaster probably this year if the pressure was all on him.
And speaking of Jordan Love, too, thinking to when myself and my dad went and saw him take the start in Kansas City when Aaron Rodgers finally got COVID because he was immunized. That whole game, that was not a game plan for Jordan Love whatsoever. Yeah. It was we spread out the field. It was an Aaron Rodgers type offense. They got pressure on Jordan Love all game long. He didn't get like the 3-step drops, get rid of the ball very quickly to the flats or a check down or get it to Devontae Adams very quickly on a quick post route or a slant. That did not work in his favor. And because of that game and the lack of a game plan for Jordan Love, I don't think the front office was ready to turn over the keys to the car to him. But then through the next preseason and then that Eagles game, you can tell when he came into that Eagles game, he was ready for the moment. He was confident.
Yes.
And the play calls were made much more for him. He was under center. He got rid of the ball on time, in rhythm. And I'm like, this is the way LaFleur's offense is supposed to look. And the LaFleur offense that Rodgers decided to play for 2 years, and then he ditched it for his Mike McCarthy West Coast offense.
You nailed that right on the head. The most exciting thing about Jordan Love starting is we will actually see a Matt LaFleur offense.
And is Aaron Jones no longer going to be neglected? I think Aaron Jones is going to be our biggest captain heading into
I don't
this
think we're
season.
going to hear as much can. I think that's pretty much that. It'll be okay. If Matt gives him reign to audible, so be it. But I think even Love will understand. Oh, they're giving me a 6-man box here, and it's a call to hand it off to Aaron Jones. I think we should do that. I think it'll be hit the 3-step drop and hit my first read instead of a little dance and prance back there or even it's 4th and 1, 40 yards to Lazard up the seam sounds good.
When we've got a crosser over the middle that's screaming wide open. There were so many times that happened.
That was the most probably impressive part about Love that I wasn't expecting to be that impressed with right off the bat was he worked his reads. It wasn't I'm gonna kind of sit and dance and who knows what he might develop into in a couple of years and create bad habits and do all that stuff. But right now it's read 1's not open, read 2's the guy, I'm gonna hit it. It seemed very mechanical, very in rhythm, very how they drew it up.
As it's structured to be.
Yes, now, he's playing within structure. That's a great point.
This is going to be a bit far-fetched, Dave, but I think Jordan Love hit the middle of the field much more in that game against the Eagles than Rodgers did all season long. Really, I think good question for yourself here is now that the Bears franchise and all the Bears fans think, all right, we've got the Packers where we want them. It's our time to shine. We've got $100 million in cap. We have Justin Fields. We got DJ Moore. We had the first pick that we traded that they probably could have gotten a little bit more for. My question for you is, are the Bears now and the Lions the new favorite of the NFC North, or how do you feel about Jordan Love compared to Justin Fields?
Okay, so I'll go team as a whole, and then we'll dive into that one real quick. So if the Packers go 2-15, there's 17 games now, 2-15, and the 2 wins against the Bears, it's a successful season. I think we're going to be, as a team overall, we just basically we can't compete in free agency. We don't have the money to, and everyone's signing big free agents, doing all that stuff. So Love is going to really have to carry this team. It's a young team, so there's just going to be moments where Love just isn't going to live up to it. There's going to be rookie mistakes, and then there's just going to be a talent differential between the Packers and another team in terms of veterans versus rookie mistakes. I probably think we're probably going to be 3rd or 4th in the division. I think the Lions are ascending. We had a tough time beating them last year. Win and in to get into the playoffs, and you lose to them with Aaron frickin' Rodgers. And the Vikings, I think the Vikings have control of the division right now. I don't think they're Super Bowl bound or anything like that, but I think they're a division winner. And then the Bears will be interesting because I think it'll be between us and the Bears, and I think it would be absolutely hilarious if the Bears go out and they spend $100 million in free agency and the Packers still end up ahead of them in the division. And part of that is because I think Love is a better quarterback than Justin Fields.
Yes, you said it, Dave. That's what I was searching for.
But I was having some drinks with some Bears fans over the weekend. And even they're split. I mean, this is a Packers show, but even Bears fans, I think it was 4 out of the 6 guys I talked to was oh yeah, Justin Fields isn't our guy. So it's kind of depends on who you ask. Some guys are he's going to take us to the Holy Land, and other people are God, I can't wait for them to realize that he's not the guy going to break down and we draft a different quarterback.
He's another run-first quarterback, and all those run-first quarterback, with the exception of maybe 2 of a Randall Cunningham, of a Donovan McNabb, of a Cam Newton, none of them have sustained success in the NFL. I mean, shoot, I saw Justin Fields, and I get it. It was beginning of year 2 for him. I saw him in Lambeau week 2 against the Packers. He threw for 70 passing yards.
Yeah.
And I know they don't have an offensive line. They had Darnell Mooney as their best wide receiver at the time. I see his legs being great. is he going to be able to go through the progressions like a Jordan Love? And also, I would like to think that Matt LaFleur's offense is better than the one that Luke Getsy is running for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. But kind of getting into free agency then, because the Bears making all those moves. Vikings kind of taking our guys once again. Here's the realistic.
Yeah, old Dean. I'm not kidding. I was more excited for the Dean news than Aaron Rodgers turning. I was. You know how much I've texted you. And
I know.
Can't wait to see 94 being worn by a different player.
I'm happy that they're. I mean, first of all, I have nothing wrong with Dean Lowry as like a person or whatever, and he sure get paid by the Vikings, like have at it. But it just leaves opportunities for guys like Watt and Ford to come in there, and just younger guys. I think that's what we've been waiting for, right? It's just like we're seeing a guy over and over again not pan out, and he's a good rotational guy, but he shouldn't be the number 2 D end, and they're just doing it. So get rid of them, start playing younger guys, and that's what I'm excited about with this. We can't even call it a reload anymore. It's an actual rebuild, even though the Packers don't call their stuff rebuilds. But it's like, okay, let's get younger. Let's see, be excited for young talent. And if they make a mistake, it's fine, but it makes those splash plays that much more exciting. Anyway, with free agency, with the Rodgers trade, they're eating $40 million in dead cap space. If it's after June 1st, I think they could split it in half this year, half next year. But, I mean, the Packers' free agents are the ones that we re-signed. So Keyshawn Nixon was a free agent. He's actually my favorite free agent we got this year. Rudy Ford coming back. Technically, he hit free agency, so he's a free agent we signed. A lot of fans have a hard time grasping that once your contract ends, you're a free agent. And if you're on the team last year and the Packers re-sign you, technically that's a free agent re-sign. That's your free agency right there.
Ted Thompson always used to joke about that, too. I even think Gutekunst did it a couple times. They're like, yeah, we're active in free agency. Did you not realize the guys that we brought back, even though we drafted them, they were free agents at the time? They count. And Dave, you brought up an exceptional point in our pre-show when we were trying to get all of this ironed out about how the only free agents that we've signed, where did these two players come from? Why are they in Green Bay? And what is a potential sign of things to come? Or what does that tell us about a confidence in a certain coach that was retained by the Packers? I love it. I didn't think he was going to be able to do anything.
Fine. You want me to drop my mad scientist thing? All right,
drop your bomb, Dave.
So Rich Bisaccia comes to Green Bay. He's clearly told the personnel staff what he wants. Players clearly love him. And the guys that he's bringing back, Keyshawn, Rudy Ford, those type of utility knife special teamers that Packers have been waiting for a really long time, got named assistant head coach. So I don't think it happens, but there is a possibility that if we absolutely bomb this year, Love shows potential, but the team absolutely just has trouble with confidence, has trouble with how Matt's running stuff. Defense is blowing up again, and they're like, why didn't you fire Barry before? And I'm going to stick to my guys. I think the front office has a plan that if they want to move on from Matt LaFleur, they have a guy in Rich Bisaccia that the players like that they might hire from within.
And you think Rich Bisaccia is going to hold the players much more accountable, not have all these veteran rest days, also have a little bit more discipline for a team as a whole, and not have all our defensive players get kicked out of games or have unsportsmanlike penalties? Those are things to be taking a look at with Rich Bisaccia. A lot of times when a coach is named assistant head coach, it's just by title. It doesn't come with any added responsibilities. I think, though, this does present much more speaking opportunities in front of the team. We've heard about Rodgers talk about Matt LaFleur, that he's gotten better over the years, speaking in front of the players, and his jokes land much more as his time went on. Rich Bisaccia, keep an eye out for him. And just how much the effect. I didn't think there was going to be anybody besides maybe God that could come in and turn around our special teams unit. And it took a while too. And I'm like, no, we're just doomed. I think there's a voodoo doll against the Packers teams.
Yeah, right.
And sure enough, as the season went on, Keyshawn Nixon's holes on special teams started getting wider and wider.
Yeah.
We didn't see Mason Crosby getting his field goal blocks. Talk about if he's able to turn around special teams, you give him a little more responsibility. I think we could see better habits from these players as well come game time.
I mean, he's clearly wanted around the league too, because like the Raiders were pissed that the Raiders players were pissed that the organization didn't retain him when he was the interim coach, and then he just went to the Colts head coaching interview as well. So he's got his name going around the league here. Where if the Packers are like, we need a change here, it's not a bad place to go to.
It's not, no. So Rich Bisaccia. Other than that, Dave, like the things that I think about here now with free agency among us and the draft and $10 million in cap going towards them. I know we got 24. All that you said is going to get washed away by Rodgers cap hit.
Yeah.
We have like 3 or 4 positions that are bleak right now. Dave, you know who our number 1 tight end is as we speak? He was also brought back as a free agent.
Davis. It's Tyler Davis.
Tyler Davis is our tight end 1 on March 19th, 2023.
Yeah.
He's our tight end 1.
We still have DeGuara.
Would you put him as tight end 1? Because he plays so much H-back that, all right.
Good Lord.
That's up for debate. But as it stands, the state of affairs today, Tyler Davis is our tight end 1. And defensive tackle looks very light as well. Safeties maybe a little bit more shored up with Rudy Ford coming back. But let's start there. Tight end. What are we doing?
Drafting and developing.
So with the 15th pick of the 2023
No,
NFL
I
draft,
don't think it's that high.
Or with the 13th pick, the Packers are going after that number 13.
I'd be shocked if the Packers went first round tight end. I think it's like second round tight end is very much in the realm of possibility.
With how deep that position is.
And then I think that you might go second round and fourth round. Get 2 guys or something like that. Just do a little double up like they used to do with the offensive line, running backs, and wide receivers. I wouldn't be shocked if they took 2 tight ends in the draft.
Just not in the 3rd round, right?
Yeah, we're trading the 3rd round this year. I texted Goody and I said, please just trade it.
Jay Sternberger, come on down.
I think he's in rehab right now, man. Do we bust him out of it?
He can still run.
I think they also go like a veteran, just a cheap deal, something like veteran minimum, or like maybe like $1 million, $1.5 million contract. Just get someone that's been sitting out in free agency for like a month and a half. Safety, I think, is a draft position as well. But I think that's higher up. I wouldn't be as shocked if they took a first round safety again. Just don't give him the 5th-year option if he's absolutely miserable this time around. And then what else is there to really? Offensive line's pretty good.
Defensive tackle, even though we got Wyatt and we got Slayton next to Kenny, which I like to think that's a major upgrade from
it is.
Your big pile of sand in Lancaster, and then your workman player in Dean Lowry. I think that's an upgrade.
Yeah. There's a lot of holes. This is what fans are gonna have to get used to too. Like big picture wise, this isn't gonna be like a reload, recalibrate, and be like bada bing, bada boom. You're back in the playoffs here. There's gonna be a struggle for probably 2 or 3 years to build this thing back up. Where it's like just to get excited to learn young players' names and not be so stressed about, oh my God, playoff season seeding and like all that stuff. Just kick back, have like 6 or 7 beers, and watch this team lose by 40 points. Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's just you need probably another wide receiver. You need a safety. You need defensive line help. You need tight end help.
You need a pass rusher as well.
You need another pass rusher, especially with Gary not being ready. You probably need a kicker. You need a punter.
So, if it's up to you, you've now been promoted to the Packers GM. Congratulations! Cheers to that.
Yeah.
That's worthy of another margarita. You've been promoted, Dave. Are you blowing this whole entire thing up right now? Like, are you trying to restructure the Aaron Jones, the Kenny Clarks, the Preston Smiths of the world, the David Bakhtiaris? Or are you blowing this whole entire thing up and starting with a true rebuild? Because we are still holding on to some of these pieces.
Yeah. I think the first domino that would have had to fall a long time ago would have had been Rodgers. But, like, it didn't. They waited till this long and stuff like that. But they already restructured Aaron Jones. They restructured Bakhtiari. They're already pushing money out the door, where I think they want to do something where they bring the young players up kind of with this veteran mix. And then once they reach this point, they're able to get out of the Aaron Jones contracts. They're able to get out of the Bakhtiari contracts. Some of this stuff would have been a lot of dead cap hit, too, that they just wouldn't have been able to take on. But I wouldn't be surprised if within the next 2 years you see a lot of those familiar faces, just Preston, Aaron Jones, Bakhtiari, those type of guys being like, okay, like, thanks for your services, and they just kind of go away, and it's just like, yeah. And then I think fans at that point are like, yeah, I get it. We've been, 6-11 for the last 3 years. I don't blame you for wanting to go on another team.
So this helps to keep fans in the stands. We're staying competitive. Yep. Otherwise, if we scrap this whole entire thing, then you brought up 2-15. Like, that is very realistic if we are getting rid of these veteran talents. Because, like, as of right now, our wide receiver room and tight end, like, they have no veteran presence whatsoever.
I don't care, like, about that point, though, because, like, just get those guys as many snaps as you can. Like, I think our upside is probably what we were last year. I don't think this is a playoff team. I think our upside is still like a game or two away from making the playoffs, like hovering around 500. Be lucky if you're a game over 500. I think it's much more realistic for this to be anywhere between a 4 and a 6 win team.
I was giving a 6 to 9. But maybe we'll hold off on giving like our actual season predictions on the
absolutely
best case scenario, worst case scenario. Still a lot of ball left to be had, or a lot of off season to be had.
Let's wait for after the draft and after the compensation comes in to kind of do that, like the predictions and stuff. And then absolutely we're doing NFL draft game live watch this year. So look forward to that. But if you don't have anything else for us, Jordan, I think let's wrap this puppy up and do this again sometime sooner than a month this time.
A little bit more of a consistent schedule. Hey, I want to say we're kind of on track with how the Rodgers decision's been made. That's been pushed out, and the front office with their sort of hemming and hawing on how they feel about Rodgers. So hey, we're right on track with carrying the G on how things have been done the past year.
But always fun getting on with you, having a drink and talking Packers.
Absolutely. Go Pack, go, Dave.
Yes, sir.
Cheers.
Cheers.